Nintendo has gotten themselves into some extreme hot water with legal proceedings. Their legal war on Palworld, saying that they have infringed on their patents, has taken an extreme turn for the worse. With their suit against Pocket Pair, the domestic suit since both companies are in Japan, not going the way they want, and their extremely dangerous, overly broad, and monopolizing patent that somehow got approved in the United States, pretty much on the verge of being revoked directly by the director of the US Patent Office, something that is pretty much unheard of. All of this combined with the fact that thanks to some Pokemon-related leaks, we now know why Nintendo is so obsessed with taking down Palworld and having patents that let them say that they're stealing from them, and that's because they're actually intending on stealing from Palworld. So they're doing as many tricks as they can to say that everything that's in Palworld is actually inspired by Pokemon Legend Arceus, and that's why it's patent infringement, because they are way more directly trying to develop a new Pokemon game that looks and feels a lot like what Palworld does. And of course, they don't want to look like they're copying Palworld. Instead, they want to make it look like Palworld is in the wrong and they were always right and the real innovators of all of them. Yep, that's pretty scummy. So I've been covering this whole legal debacle with Nintendo for a while now, and this is some really good news because Nintendo has used their legal team in order to pretty much try and stifle creativity and corner a market, avoid competition as much as possible. And finally, we've got some good decisions from the people involved, striking back at them in almost violent ways of, you know, we both know this is BS. What are you trying to pull here? Why don't you sit down, Nintendo? And I'm gonna be honest, I'm really happy about it. I'm really happy because as much as I can like a lot of Nintendo, specifically the games they often make excellent games, just as well as I have some problems with some of their games, like the latest Pokemon. And I have some issues with their hardware or some of the business decisions that they've been making lately. I'm not here to just blindly hate on Nintendo, but I am definitely here to blindly hate on Nintendo's legal department. And finally, it seems like they're losing. So we're gonna dive into all of it. Exactly what is going on, and very importantly, what that could mean for the future and potentially stopping Nintendo from trying to be a big bully on the playground and not let anybody not even play with their toys. They can't even make their own. As well as the Pokemon leaks and just how poetic it all is that Nintendo has to be the one copying. Before we do though, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's great to see you. You're looking fantastic. Also, if you like the video at any point, hit the like button, and if by the end of it you like the way that I cover news, the video game industry, my reviews and essays on just all things video games that hopefully we all love, consider subscribing. That would be phenomenal. I'm really excited about this. It's great news. Let's get into it. Now, most of what I'm going to be citing today comes from either GameStray, which is a website that covers all of these proceedings, video games from the legal perspective, and Centro Leaks, which is a highly reputable Pokemon leaker. There'll be links to those things down below in the description if you want to check them out for yourself, and I will be simplifying a lot of this information because it is very technically dense and, you know, legalese. So I apologize if in that process of simplifying things, I don't do the best, most accurate job possible, but just trying to cut through the denseness of it. Also, I do think it's worth refreshing people on what exactly is happening and why. And that refresher course before we jump into the big news is marked down here in the chapters. So if you're up to date on the case and everything that's going on, just skip to that point. It's fine. But if you're not, you don't remember the details, you don't know anything about this, then stick around for that summary version. And here we go with that. So Nintendo is a company that has a pretty infamous history with their legal proceedings and sicking their legal team on pretty much everything that they can and trying to corner and monopolize markets by patenting game mechanics. They also patent a lot of like video game hardware stuff and all sorts of things, but some of those are more justifiable, I would say, but definitely not patenting ideas, basically, of a game mechanic, which I think most people are very much against because of how it affects creativity and the freedom of people to experiment and the nature of video games as an iterative medium where new games come out that take stuff from old games, try and evolve them, change them, mix them up with something else, give them their own spin, and that's how we sometimes end up with some of the best games of all time. What really ruffled their feathers was the release and massive success of Palworld, to the point that they directly sued Pocket Pair in Japan for patent infringement, citing patents that they obtained regarding Pokemon Legends Arceus, some that were very, very close to the whole thing developing, and saying that they are infringing on that. To be clear, there's no copyright infringement. It's not about copying the Pokemon concepts or designs or anything like that. It's them trying to fight them on stuff like, we have a patent about having a summonable creature that you have in your inventory appear from an object. You can't use PAL spheres or anything like that. Forcing Palworld, by the way, during these proceedings to make it so that your pals now just magically like spawn from the player character, because otherwise they are infringing a patent that Nintendo has in an ongoing legal proceeding. Some of the more important ones there are stuff like summoning your monsters that you have or your companions that could be considered your inventory and using them as mounts and being able to quickly change between one and the other. This has also led to some changes for Palworld, but if it all sounds ridiculous to you, it's because it is. At the same time, they managed to get a patent through in the US Patent Office in kind of a shotgun approach, because Nintendo tries to patent everything. And kind of like playing the lottery, it seems they just got lucky and they were granted a patent that tries to patent the idea of summoning another character that isn't the player character and having that other character fight automatic. Which, yes, Pokemon, but also a million other games. From any fantasy game with a necromancer, to any game where summoning is a mechanic, to, of course, creature collection or monster taming games, from necromancers in Baldur's Gate to palicos in Monster Hunter. It has been called an abomination and a horrible mistake from the US Patent Office by many experts because of just how broad and abusable the patent is, and that appears to be changing. That's the recap. Hope you liked it, and if you're joining the video right now, welcome back. Now, things are gonna get a bit complicated and technical, but just bear with me and take the big picture from this. The first big news is that the Japan Patent Office has said that one of the 3 patents that Nintendo is using to sue Pocket Pair isn't valid. After a third-party submission, the Patent Office has decided that there is prior art, citing games like Ark, by the way, that already does the things that Nintendo is trying to patent, and therefore it's not valid. And while that doesn't mean that Pocket Pair and Palworld win the suit, it does directly harm Nintendo and harms their overall argument, since they just essentially lost one of their legs to stand on. Funnily enough, the other games that are cited as prior art include Monster Hunter 4, Pocket Pair's Craftopia, and Pokemon Go. So enjoy that. Basically, this is a war, but the war is being fought on 3 different battles, and one of their battles just turned very sour. One of their other battles had already turned sour when some of the language that they used was just incoherent, and they had to amend the claims of why their petition was valid. And now they might have to do that again with this one. Basically, the House of Cards, since it's built on pretty flimsy ideas, is falling apart. Nintendo had indeed applied for these patents for Legends Arceus in the past, and when Palworld happened, they went from the regular track of how a patent is approved and put them on the fast track, trying to get it done as quickly as possible. And while not the most directly applicable, they have done everything they can to twist the interpretations of these patents in order to make them affect Palworld and try and knock them down. Palworld, though, thankfully made a ton of money, and they are fighting this, and it seems like they are winning. With Pocket Pair themselves potentially being the people who submitted the third-party prior art to the court. The reason this matters so much is that this is a moment where the whole proceedings in Japan are now actively taking into consideration prior art, which means that they're not just looking at the patents on paper, they are actually looking at video games, examining them, and seeing if what Nintendo is claiming makes any sense. And if they continue to do that, I think pretty much everybody would agree that they have nothing to stand on. With Nintendo trying as hard as possible to not have prior art admitted into this, and now having that blown wide open, a lot of their chances become very slim. But what's even more intriguing is that we now kind of know why they are fighting this so hard. Thanks to a plethora of leaks that have happened regarding Pokemon and reported by a ton of people, it seems that Nintendo is planning a Pokemon game that does a lot of what Palworld does, and they might be trying to pull off this whole lawsuit in order to establish themselves as not just the original creators of the creature collecting genre, but also the innovators, and make sure that nobody says that actually they're copying Palworld now. Funnily enough, we don't know if they are actually copying Palworld, but it seems likely because all we have from those leaks are ideas that they have, and not specifically dates on when those ideas actually came about. Sure, this could be a huge coincidence. Stranger things have happened. Paladins and Overwatch were in development at the same time. But I think it's suspicious at the very least. Specifically, the new Pokemon game that they are working on would include a seamless open world with dynamic weather, terrain deformation, and an emphasis on exploration instead of following a pre-scripted path. The combat of the creatures would be significantly different, being maybe some sort of combination of what Legend ZA does of the pseudo real-time battles, but with you being able to ride Pokemon and summon them as your mounts to traverse different parts of the environment, similar to Legends Arceus. Much more direct, though, is the incorporation of survival elements, which is something that they're already experimenting with Pokopia. That's the name. This would include direct survival mechanics of having to forage for materials, being able to build base camps, and being able to use your Pokemon for labor and maintenance. Probably in a cuter way than Palworld does. You know, your Squirtle will probably be very happy to keep the water mill spinning or something, and your Pikachu just loves keeping the lights on at the base, but still very much like Palworld. There has also been the potential for co-op raids, for people being able to join into your world, see your bases, see what you're doing, and help you with objectives in this vast open world. And the craziest part of them all is that this would potentially be a much more dark Pokemon game. One set in a post-apocalypse with a much darker tone, including the potential of even weapons being used and active combat existing between humans and Pokemon, which is something that people have been asking Nintendo for many years, and that of course Pocket Pair capitalized on with Palworld. I think this one might be a stretch, but it would still be pretty interesting. But this does ring true with some of the leaked footage that we've seen now, and I can't show you, of, you know, Pokemon kind of looking a bit like Palworld. So yeah, Pokemon and Nintendo being sneaky and trying to pull this off is, I mean, par for the course, but it is what it is. Thankfully, it seems like they're being knocked down a peg. The other half of this equation is that super broad patent that they have in the US about summoning something and having it fight automatically. And that is some serious heat. Probably because of all of the noise that was kicked up about this patent, and many legal experts saying that it was just an abhorrent thing to ever approve and just incredibly dangerous and giving way too much power to Nintendo. John A. Squires, the director of the US Patent Office, has personally stepped in and ordered a reevaluation of that patent. It hasn't been revoked, it's still there, it's still valid, but it's being re-examined, which probably means it's going to be revoked. This is not a common occurrence. The last time that a director of the US Patent Office directly stepped in and personally asked for a re-examination of a patent was 2012. And what's even crazier about it is that John A. Squires, the newly appointed one, his whole campaign and his whole philosophy on running the patent office, every change he's made has been about protecting existing patents and making it more difficult for people to challenge them. With a philosophy that is basically, if we are really good with what we approve and what we don't, we never need to even consider the possibility that it needs to be challenged. And going against his own philosophy and the way that he views things, this is basically an admission of fault. They are saying that this patent should have never passed, and it warrants an extra go-over from the highest authority. And they are doing this with prior art references to take it down. So basically that does mean that they're pulling out the big guns. This is very, very serious stuff. This isn't just serious like in video game world. This is serious like legal stuff. Like this is a momentous thing. It doesn't happen often. So the fact that they are saying, hey, somebody slipped up and let this patent go through when it shouldn't have, and they are on their own, probably again, because of all of the public outrage about this patent, taking another look at it, looks like it's probably gonna get revoked. And for me, the biggest part about all of this isn't just that they're going to lose that incredibly dangerous patent, or that they're losing the lawsuit in Japan, is the fact that this might change how a lot of people in the legal world, in patent offices, view Nintendo and the way they operate. And it can even open up a much bigger conversation about patenting game mechanics and how patents should work at all in the changing times that we live in. If there's one thing I think would be fantastic for everybody involved, is that both in the Japanese, as it's been described, endless loop of patent law, and in the US Patent Office, which are two of the big 4 patent offices in the world, with the remaining 2 being the European Patent Office and the Chinese Patent Office. If they look at what's going on here with Nintendo and Palworld and consider, even if it is just on a personal level and not on an official one, that what they're doing is abusive and it is attempting to monopolize a market through patenting game mechanics, that it is harmful for competition in a way that isn't how patents should be used, they might put themselves on the naughty list. I can promise you that at least within the US Patent Office, if this patent got approved because somebody lower down in the chain was like, yeah, this seems fine, and that just somehow went through, any patent that from now on is filed by Nintendo doesn't go through that chain normally. That rings alarm bells and gets examined by people very carefully from now on, no matter what they try to patent. And again, probably not on an official standing, but yes, on the fact that they now know that this mistake happened and they don't want it to happen again, especially with a company that seems to have the shotgun approach to try and just have everything for themselves. Similarly, it would be nice if the Japanese court would decide that maybe Nintendo has been abusing all of this for a very long time and maybe they should shut up and think twice about what they do, and at least a warning would be nice so that it doesn't end up being this whole thing over and over again anytime Nintendo feels slighted, that they take legal action. Or at least, hey, they're always going to do that. They've done it a million times over. They do it with people who stream modded versions of Nintendo games. They take down fan games. They really have no ifs, ands, or buts about just boom, straight down the line, firing and just looking at any potential target. But maybe when it comes to their patents and their anti-competitive nature, this will knock them down a peg. And that would be good for the industry in general, and especially for creativity and the iterative nature of games, and hopefully allows people to experiment again or try and have healthy competition, which, as I have said many times, is what forces the industry and game design to evolve and gives us better games in the end. Hopefully, this is coming to a close soon, because while this is like the biggest update that has really happened with all of this, since I've been covering it from the start, I am committed now to covering the whole saga as it continues, so you can count on me to update you at some point with how these things go, because I care, and I hope you do too, because it does impact the games that we love. But once again, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Now that we're here at the end, if you think I did a good job of summarizing this and bringing the most important points to you and an interesting perspective on it, consider subscribing. Lots of cool reviews and videos on some big games and stuff coming, and I would love to have you along for the ride. An extra special thanks to the members of The Wall, be they members here on YouTube or be they on Patreon. And you can check the link for that down in the description below, but I'm eternally grateful to all of you who directly support the channel. I've been Mug. Go out there, have a fantastic rest of the week if you can, and play some good video games, man. As always, I'll see you again very soon.